I will mention that we appreciate everyone who comes to sign in if you would, but if you intend to speak tonight, you are required to sign in. Those are kind of our rules. When you get to your point to speak, we need you to identify yourself before you start speaking. So with that, we will note that Director Bizot had a previous commitment since we had to switch meeting nights, so she's not here tonight and she is excused. Does staff or any other board members have any additions to the agenda as it's presented? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
I will second that.
Okay, so Director Rogers moved and Director McMaster seconded. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. Next is the consent agenda. Do board members wish to pull anything off of the consent agenda for individual discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve it.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, Director McMaster moves, Director Ryerson seconds. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, public participation, we're moving Hunter back down to the pickleball committee, so he's off here. I don't see Jeanette, so if she shows up later, we will.
Unless she's online, she
Oh,
won't be.
I forget about that.
Jeanette.
Jeanette, are you there?
Nope.
No, okay. All right, we will come back to Jeanette should she show up either virtually or in person. Others not on the agenda. Any of you folks out here to speak to us?
Dana
Okay.
Kemp, Crystal Riley Foundation. I had sent an email earlier in the month to the board regarding the trail names, and it wasn't on here. It was kind of in the back of the packet on page 165, and I was hoping we were gonna talk about that tonight.
Okay, Kat responded, correct?
She said it was gonna be, she did, and it was, anyway, I thought it was gonna be in the front of the packet, but it's on page 165.
That might come up under trails too.
Okay,
So,
just didn't know where we were putting it.
Okay.
right, because I brought that up to Brian and to Casey and to Donna already, so.
Well, let's deal with it now.
So why don't you go ahead and talk about it, because I think that it's not gonna be.
Oh, and I sent it to all of you, so you should have had it in your.
We
email.
have, it's in our
Okay.
packet, we've all seen it.
When I was at the Chehalem Heritage Trail meeting, they started to talk about naming of the trails.
I'm sorry, you have to identify yourself.
She Oh, I
did.
I'm sorry.
Dana Kemp, sorry.
Thank you.
And so I think the trail committee, we discussed the names that are currently there, and I think that was approved, that we will continue with those trail names. But the email is regarding any future or trails that are not named, to be named, to give the consideration that they be named after the property, the family, the history of the property. There's a lot of history with the Native Americans, Chinese workers, etc. And so just wanted to be a part of that naming convention and have it part of that property versus, I don't know, ABC from wherever.
Right, okay, I apologize, I missed that part of it somehow. I saw the Kat had responded that we were keeping the other names and I thought that was it. So, sorry about that. So, Jim?
So I'd like to comment on, I know that we have the RFQs to do the master plan. And I know that Dana has a lot of history from the trust, as well as knowing Bob and Crystal and so on in the past. I really think it would behoove the Park District to be able to have her as a part of that. A lot of them, I don't know who we're going to choose, but a lot of them talked about community involvement and so on. And so they can basically feed those folks in the master plan the history. And I also think, and you talked about it too, that it was a land grant and so on. I think there's a lot of cool history there. So I think, and I think that, in my opinion, not the board's, but in my opinion, I think that we should honor that and basically show that to the public when all's said and done. And I talked to Don about it, and he thought it was a good idea too. So anyway,
Thank you.
it's already been done. Great.
Yeah, I don't think we would have any desire or reason to, you know, name the trails after Bart or Brian or anything like that.
Well, I just wanted to put it out there because I think the trail committee was starting to talk about naming of trails, so
Other things.
I wanted to kind of get ahead of that so that they had some direction too as they move forward with signage.
But I could comment, the Trails Committee has already had discussion about that and agreed that they, you know, they wanted to also honor
Okay.
existing trail names and, you know, exactly what you're talking about, so.
I think it would mean a lot to the, you know, to Crystal and her heritage,
Yeah,
that the mountain, Parrot Mountain is named after her family, so I think it goes a long ways, and for the community too, so I appreciate it, thank you.
But now you're responsible,
Well, I have Christy and Mary are still around.
because you know the
Former-
history, so you're
Yeah,
responsible.
so all the three of us will help you,
all right.
so, thank you.
At the very least, consider yourself at least ad hoc appointed, if not officially appointed. Get to you at the time. Where the two ladies just came in, we're at public participation. If you came to speak to us about something, now would be your chance, unless there was something on the agenda you came for.
We're just concerned about the Cushing Riley Park.
Okay, we were just talking about that.
I heard that.
Okay. And what, were you
We
concerned about
just
the
kind-
trail names or
No,
something
I'm
else?
just trying to put a little concern because I want to see what's happening with it.
Okay. We are gonna talk about the park here in just actually, it's next, so.
Great, perfect timing.
Yes, all right.
And then if you want us, did you guys sign in when you
Well,
came
there
in?
wasn't a pen there anymore.
Okay, who stole the pen?
Oh, thank you.
We'll search everyone on the way out.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know if this is a time to talk about the work party, but
Sure.
it is. Ryan Reinhofer, yes, I signed in. Just been trying to get a final approval to get a date set so the equestrians that I've gathered can get to work and cleaning up trails. I know Brian back there was working on it with me, but it doesn't look like, the March date's gonna work, but wondered if we could just get a stamp seal of approval, for the April 1st, and I can start telling people to show up.
Okay, that's, you know, honestly, that's a staff decision, that's not us, so just work.
Okay.
Is that working out with us? I mean, I'm sure that Brian's getting back to
So-
there's good communication.
April 1st might work just fine, but as you know, with the weather, as screwy as it's been, and working with Russ, it's,
Well, what
depending
does,
on where we do it, and then, but he said he's status with you and talked to you a little bit about what your thoughts and ideas were, and
I sent him an email.
it sounds great.
Yeah.
It sounds absolutely great, we're all excited we could do that. It's just, I don't wanna cause more damage to your trails than good based on the weather, you know, if we had weather like we had this past week or two.
Absolutely, we
Then
can
you
always
have-
have a backup weather day too.
Right, so we can tentatively shoot for April 1st, let me double check with Russ, and he had COVID and he just
I
came
know
out of
he
that.
canceled it, yeah.
And he's anxious to get, you know, and drive the trails with you and finalize that, but we'll do that here, next week, I guess, you know, if the
That
two
would
of
be
you get
great.
together.
Next week would be great.
And then we can finalize a date, why don't we do that, does that work?
That would be great. You
Awesome.
tell me when, I'm ready.
Brian,
Yeah,
Brian?
We are too.
Do you have Ryan's contact information?
Yeah,
Yeah, we've been
yeah.
communicating.
Super, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for wanting to put that together.
And we know it never snows in April.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay, so we're gonna move off of public participation, although if Jeanette shows up, we will come back. And so the next item is discussion on the RFQ for the park, and we can talk about any other park-related things here if we need to. Dawn or Casey?
That went out and was due on the 15th, and we received it back, and I selected some people from the Trails Committee and also some from just the public to review those, to help me review them. So there's 5 of us doing that. Two of them are in the audience tonight, and
They're online, I think.
Are they Hope?
Well, I think Hope
and
is, but not
Dana
Melissa.
And Brian Bowman are helping with that.
Okay. And when do you expect to pick someone?
We should, toward the end of next week, I think we'll have a good idea to be able to make a recommendation. And you guys are welcome to review the stuff too and put your comments in there.
Are you getting prices from them for what they would charge to do the master plan?
Well,
'Cause I didn't see
this
it.
part's free, and we are going to do some interviews before we, probably 3, maybe even 4 interviews, before we pick anyone, and that will come up in that portion.
We're probably gonna do a GMC.
These all look like really good,
Qualified.
qualified.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read through them all and, yeah, you have some good choices. I mean, there's some qualified people there.
We're talking about 2 different things. We're talking about the Riley property. Talking about the Riley property, and I think Don's talking about the bypass.
You're correct. I'm talking about the bypass.
You know, the only thing I looked at, just a real quick comment, was that, you know, some of those folks were involved with the environmental study too, and that's big as far as them being able to already know what's there and maybe
Well,
already having it in CAD.
There's multiple firms that have
Right, I saw
members
that.
that were up there from prior work experience and that kind of stuff. There's also people that are very vested in horse trails and bike trails and.
You've got some good people, so
Yeah.
we're good.
I think it's a good selection and a good kind of mix from everyone's perspective. Go ahead.
Can you give us an idea of the timeline of when we will be ready to make a recommendation on who
Well,
we want to move forward with?
probably do interviews, let's see, not next week, but the week after, and then we can probably make recommendations at the next board meeting, March.
Okay, thank you.
Are you interviewing all 4?
I think so. I think it would be a good idea.
Okay, so to you 2 ladies, and anybody else that was concerned about the park, so, you know, we're going through this process, we're very close to, you know, naming a consultant, for lack of a better phrase, to work through us for the master planning, and there will be, you know, multiple public input opportunities in that process. And then, you know, and then that group will bring recommendations to us, so you would have a chance to, you know, input there, and then if you don't like the recommendations that come out of that, then you can come tell us before we, you know, adopt them.
And those are available online?
They will be once we haven't selected the group yet. They're gonna interview them over the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
We just heard that, you know, we will likely have a recommendation of which organization to hire at our next board meeting. And so then they'll start soon after that.
Okay. So do we have any idea who these would, if we've ridden parks in the area, would we have any idea what they have done or see what, if you just want to go around and see what they've done?
Mark?
Yeah, you could go on our website, you could download the same packet that we have this
Okay.
evening from this meeting, and there's resumes for each group, as, you know, so it tells each, you know, the principals what their history is. It also goes through some of the projects that they've done. And so that's a big part of our packet here,
I
so
would
it's,
think it would be, yes. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
And then if you have any questions, Kat is not here tonight because she has a previous commitment as well, but she's sort of our liaison to the public. If you have questions about the process and that, you know, if you can get those to Kat, she'll be sure to.
Yeah, no, I would just like to look through the
Yeah,
4 people
yeah,
that have
right,
applied
yes.
and
Yeah,
see.
full packet is online on our
Okay,
website.
great. That's the question.
Yes, Mr. Paulson, you still have to identify yourself,
Even if I have.
even if I've identified.
Steve
you.
Paulson,
Thank you.
510 One Night Notice. With the election coming in May, let's just hypothetically, let's say there's a change in the board as it's constructed as it is right now. Is that gonna alter any of these decisions and who's selected for these things that you're talking about for the Crystal Rally? Or is that all gonna happen before May in the event that there's a change in structure?
The structure doesn't change until July 1st.
Okay,
Yeah,
so all this will be done before that?
Yeah.
possibly.
Yeah,
Yeah, you never know. I mean,
We
it
hope
just
so.
depends
We
on
don't-
how things
I
move.
mean, we're not gonna rush it just so that we make the decision.
Okay.
It'll go through the natural process and, yeah, it'll be up to the board at the time when the recommendations get to us.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from anyone else about the park? Okay. We are already on reports and comments from board members. Director McMaster.
Yeah, real quick, Jacob Park drainage improvements. I noticed that, over by the shelter area, that we did a big improvement over there, looks really good. I haven't seen whether it's filled all the way yet, but it's gonna be safer, so that was cool to see that. Did you work with the city on that to try to help
We did.
delineate some of that flooding that the city throws toward
That
our way?
was, the city put the new culvert in there and took out all the rotting ties that were in there.
Right.
And we kinda cleaned up the area after them, more or less, and it makes it a lot easier to keep it clean, that drain.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be safer for the public too, especially walking across there, so it looks really good. And then, there was a request from, some folks from the cultural center talked to me about the cameras out there, that there may not all be working, and they may need more due to some of the situations with, folks hanging out around the area, that maybe shouldn't be. So that was just brought up to my attention that some of the cameras may not be working, and that the district might wanna look at that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so Sean emailed me. We're going to be meeting with him Monday, I believe, next week. And we'll be looking at the whole system and what it's going to take to replace or repair what's there. So,
That's all I got.
Okay. Director Ryerson,
Pass.
Director Rogers.
Well, I think next board meeting, Sean is gonna be presenting, is that correct? Yeah, so he'll be here to present on the next phase of the cultural center, which is the theater. And so you get a better idea of what that's gonna look like. It's gonna be pretty awesome. That's about all I have. Thanks.
Okay, I mentioned last month that in monitoring, there's rumors of a bill that might impact, well, talked about the legislature, there's rumors of a bill that may impact Park District SDCs, there's rumors of a bill that would impact all SDCs, but haven't really heard anything concrete yet, so I just continue to keep an eye on that. Park districts were added to the SDC laws as an addendum back when, and so they're kind of sitting there as a ripe target for those who don't like them, so we're always a little wary of those, but nothing to report yet. But I do keep an eye. All right. Updates on projects and questions. That's you, Casey.
Yeah, apparently it is. Like I said, I wrote an RFP for the bypass trail to get the construction contractor on board. And it's currently being reviewed so that we're compliant, let's put it that way. And we got this RFP back in February, early February, and have been working on kind of going through and evaluating all the companies that submitted. The Ewing Young Bridge project, back in December, we submitted land use for the campground, the Heritage Trails campground, excuse me, to the county I took it to them on December 22nd. I believe that they noticed it on the 27th of December. That was around holiday time. And currently, the Heritage Trails came back and they had a few questions, and the questions were answered and resubmitted. Ewing Young Bridge Project was sent in at the same time, and that is a different project because it's part of the lot is in the county and part of it's in the city, and the city has approved it, or technically approved. There's land use notices going up Monday, or when I get back, Wednesday. The county denied it, and so we have a discussion to have with our attorney, and probably appeal that and take it to the county. Ken Friday in our pre-app meeting said that that was more than likely to occur anyway, so no surprises. As our trails are not welcome on agricultural land in Yamhill at this point. So I guess we just push forward on that. What else is going on?
I think it's important to note the Crystal Riley property could be affected as well. Trails could be forbidden.
New trail.
And,
How could that happen?
well, I don't know.
It's in the
I mean,
language.
it's in Washington County though.
It's in the language.
No, it's in Yamhill.
It's, yeah.
It's all in the.
They,
It's all in Yamhill. But it's a possibility for new trails and stuff. So we'll be definitely working on that. I just wanted to give everyone a heads up.
Is that something new, Dawn? Did the county make some changes to the rules, or was it the state changes, or,
If you remember the Yamhillis Trail,
right?
there was a bridge to be built. The LUBA sent it back to the county with suggestions on how to update theirs so that it could go through. The county refused to do it. As a matter of fact, I heard both commissioners say that it was LUBA. It was not LUBA. LUBA gave them the deal. They just refused to do it. So, until that gets corrected, we're going to be in trouble.
They also removed the language from their plan to remove any mention of trails for the Dundee Bypass Trail.
Right. It's got to do with transportation. I'm not an expert on it. I'm not quite sure. But I think anything to do with transportation, and they said that the trail in Ewing Young Park was part of transportation.
Transportation improvement.
Yeah. Transportation improvement. So you figure it out. I can't. It doesn't make sense.
Does that mean
But-
any trail or any pathway we have in any park is concerned, I mean, that's my issue.
If
Because
it's in the county,
If it's in the city limits of Newburgh, you're
And
gonna
it's
be.
on agricultural land.
It's the zoning is
It's
the
the
key.
zoning.
Well, here's my thoughts on this, is that Ewing Young Park, for those that haven't been down there, we've owned that acreage for a lot of years. Before I was here, and that was 40 years ago. And the area that we're taking the bridge over to is a wetlands. So basically, it's a floodplain. They can't really do anything in the floodplain, except for let our people go over, our constituents go over and play disc golf, is what they kind of want to do. And so it's concerning to me that anything be thrown out. And then also on the bypass trail, that's in an ODOT easement. I think in the paper it talked about along the river, well, along the bypass really, and it's in an ODOT easement. So it's not, it can't be used for ag or anything else anyway. So that's concerning to me, that this stuff's getting out to people and they're not sure what's what. So I'm just trying to clarify a little bit there.
Director Ryerson?
Yeah, also the Yamhill County Parks Plan is about 22 years old, and Yamhill County has expressed interest in renewing that or redoing that plan. The current plan has language in it for both the Whitson landfill and our old Newburgh landfill property at the confluence of Chehaon Creek that suggests the best use for both of those properties would be trails. And it's my understanding there's several people that are applying for, conservative people aligned with the county commissioners applying for an open position on the Yamhill County Parks. I think one of the director's spouses actually applied. And it's likely that they may choose to remove that language of support for trails on those abandoned landfill properties.
Can I ask, is there an update on the Rennie Park? Soccer field?
I talked to Steve, the school superintendent, yesterday, and they're sitting on an agreement that we have to sign with, between the district and CPRD for maintenance of those fields and use, and that's kind of what we're waiting for. But everything's kind of ready to go as soon as we tell them yes, or we get the two boards to sign the agreement.
Anything else, Casey?
Oh, not off the top of my head, no.
Which one's Rennie again?
Excuse me?
Which one's Rennie again, Park?
Rennie is over, you know where
Blaney
Union
Street.
Skate Park is over that area? It's that.
It's a school district.
Okay. Pickleball, trails, golf course, etc. Pickleball's first. I'm sure you,
Okay,
some things you want to talk about.
Yes.
I will give you as much leeway as I can. I would ask that, you've given us your opinion on several of these things several times, so we're kind of looking for new information here.
well, I think a lot of this is new information. In our search for funding,
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be persnickety, but you do need to identify yourself for the
I'm
record.
Hunter Wiley, thank you. And with the Pickleball Advisory Committee and the things that you guys want copies? I'm sure. Casey wouldn't have thought
I'm sure they could hand them out amongst themselves, Hunter, if you could kind of get going here.
Okay. As I've said in the past, the thing that we're looking for is funding. This is my last copy.
All right, never mind. I'll just listen.
We have given input on the traffic study that was done for the campground, and put it bluntly, that was a content-free traffic report, and it's got more errors in it than you can shake a stick at, and these are all serious structural errors. And we're recommending, and we had started the recommendations in October with Don and Casey regarding getting your money back on the report completely. And I'm willing to help you collect that money based on, it's literally content-free. There's so many errors in that structure.
We're not talking about the pickleball here,
We're talking about how to get money back into the funding for pickleball. And the only way you can see doing it is getting some of these projects dealt with that are gonna free up funds. And that's what I've said continuously. is-
So I understand we have somebody from
Matt Bell is on from Kittleson, I believe.
Yeah,
Matt, are you there?
give me 1 second. Guess not.
Oh, he's there.
You have to sit in the back. You have to sit in the back.
I'm gonna sneak out.
All right, Matt, you should be able to unmute and turn on your camera.
Yep, I am here. And my name is Matt Bell. Thanks everybody for having me. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions about the traffic study.
Okay, Matt, one of the things that was stated in there said this is a rural road and indicating moderate to low use when it's the second busiest highway in the city of Newburgh. The study also indicated there were no fatalities on the road. That's not true either. There's fatalities within 1 mile of the park to the north and 1.5 miles south. Your study was also predicated on the traffic, the automatic traffic recording device approximately 8 miles south. And all of your studies were based on that too, as far as traffic flow. And you totally ignored the McKay Road, Allen Road corridor, which is the main corridor for Highway 219 between 99 East and 99 West. And that invalidated it. And that corridor is so dangerous, they killed 12 people on it within 4 miles of the park. And now it was so dangerous that the state declared it a safety corridor, limiting the speed limit and enforcing no passing, having lighted intersections that go every place between I-5 and 219. That was totally disregarded in the report. So it wasn't, you're not looking at or evaluating the actual traffic flow of 219 that goes right past the campground.
So I can start at the top. I guess I'll look for a direction from anybody that's there to tell me whether or not you want me to address all of these things. But let me say first off is that we did have a relatively narrow scope of work on this traffic study, and that's primarily because when we engaged both the county and the Oregon Department of Transportation on what it is that we needed to look at as part of this, he said, given the size, given the use, given the characteristics out there, that our focus was really on the driveway. So this was a site access review with some additional operations and safety analysis. So when you talk about fatalities that are 1 mile away to the north, 1 mile to the south, and 4 miles further to the east, those are well beyond and well outside of the focus of our traffic study. So I appreciate that those things are all a concern, but
Let
again,
him
our focus
finish.
was
We
really on
gave
the
you a
driveway.
lot of time.
I'd say, and so that I'm not bringing into question the significance of any of the things that you're saying. I'm just simply saying that our focus was really at the driveway and the operations and the safety conditions at the driveway. As far as using things like automatic traffic recorders to use as a basis for, that's really used as a basis for seasonal adjustment. That's to make sure that the counts that were conducted in the time frame that they were conducted are reflective of the peak condition along the corridor. So we use those automatic traffic recorders that collect data 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Tells us what we need to be adjusting to make sure that we're reflecting the peak seasonal traffic flow along that roadway. So regardless of whether or not we counted it during the peak season, we can make adjustments to capture that. As far as the rural roadway piece itself, it's I'm not sure exactly which part you're referring to in the study, but 219 in this segment is located outside of a urban growth boundary of an incorporated city. So by all definitions, it is defined as a rural roadway, as a rural context. So that really, I don't know if I'm addressing your concern there, but it's for by functional classification and design standards, it's a rural roadway.
You did mention in your study the fatalities and the lack of accidents next to and up and from the campground. Actually, you cited some. And the ones you cited totally ignored 2 accidents which occurred and with fatalities in the time period of your study. And you also said within the range, and you said even ranging out from that area, there were no fatalities. And the fact is, the primary corridor that feeds that was full of fatalities, 12 to be exact, that you totally ignored in the study. And also when you said you were looking at the local traffic across that specific area in the road, one of the things that's in your study is you're showing, as you approach the park from the south on 219, you're showing 2 northbound lanes and 1 southbound lane. That's inaccurate. There is a northbound lane, a southbound lane, and a shared passing lane. That's not shown in your study, that's an error, as well as the other errors on fatalities.
So in terms of the fatalities that you're referring to, we, if they are located anywhere other than at our study intersection, which is essentially the site access driveway, either the existing location or the proposed relocation of the driveway, then it would have been outside of the range of what we were really focused on in terms of fatalities. I do know that there were a few accidents within that general area which contributed to some of the recommendations that we included in the study. So having been out there myself, having trying to drive around in this corridor, up and down, making a few U-turns, and even standing on the side of the roadway, I know the characteristics of the roadway from personally being out there. And so I can say that, like, again, because of the crash data that we did look at, which didn't include any fatalities, there were, it contributed to the recommendations. As far as the lane configurations goes, you're right, but it is 1 southbound lane, it is 1 northbound lane with a passing lane, but from a traffic operations analysis standpoint, that outside passing lane really does serve in a similar way as a second northbound through lane.
That, and as an accident after your report, which you obviously could not have considered because it happened post-case, there was another accident right in front of the campground regarding someone using the southbound passing lane. So that is applicable.
Okay, so we're gonna move on from this topic. I mean, you have your
Actually, I have
questions. We've
another
got-
question, Don,
Yes.
if you mind, if I ask the superintendent.
Sure.
Don, when we've been talking about the campground before, haven't you suggested that, that we might not want to use this just because of the traffic at that driveway entrance and might want to access it from the new access road that goes to the Wilsonville Highway? And that's, one of the delays is that's not, there's not appropriate timing for that now, but I think you'd made that recommendation before that might be the better way to access the campground and the way we might want to move forward anyway.
It would definitely be the better access. Unfortunately, the city of Newburgh put in a request to expand the UGB. It was denied. Because it was denied, they did away with their plans, which tied into that. We were part of that particular plan. So where it is right now, I don't think it's going to happen in the next few years. So we dropped back with the idea of looking at access from 219.
Thank you.
Yeah. But eventually, you're correct, when all that gets built.
Closing out on the campground, the other issue is essentially the access issues which we just debated. There's no water on the property. And basically, you've got a 15-acre campground that's, once you put all the roadways in, you're gonna have even less than that, probably close to 13 and a half.
Yes, you've gone over that before. And,
All right.
And Carl, I haven't agreed with you on this point, so I'm not.
No, I understand. I'm gonna follow the agenda if you want. Okay, the next one is the cancellation of the bridge on the phase 1 and substituting with a Winooski. I mentioned this before, this goes back over a year ago. In October, I had discussions with Don and Casey regarding the unbid portions of the bridge, which were the civil construction. I guess that RFP is still not issued yet. Determine that cost, but in any case, whatever it's gonna cost you, your budget's gonna be blown. You're not gonna have the money to do it. So the question I have, if you wanna complete the trails, which I think you really do, and given the city's announcement that they're gonna build a trail around the front of the mill projects, which terminates right at the sewage plant, that you go ahead, move the trail down, use the Winooski Bridge, versus going across yours, coming back across the Winooski Bridge and get to that trail. Just do that, and you don't have to build anything, you don't have to maintain it, and it's done. I don't know why that's an unreasonable request to look at. And I've talked to ODOT regarding using portions of the flyover right-of-way, so you can build a trail around the south end of that, and they didn't seem to mind there'd be a big deal about that at all. Plus, they're gonna put in sidewalks and bike lanes all the way down to Winooski. So, I mean, there's plenty of ways to get around that problem. Move ahead with the trails projects, not spend millions of dollars.
Jim?
Do you know how many times the riverfront plan has been changed by the city of Newburgh? So when you come to us and say they're going to do this, that's great. But I don't believe that it may get done the way that you're speculating that it may get done. Because of the number of times they've redone that and redone that and redone that. We have a plan to get on an easement with ODOT to put that through. And that's what I'm looking at. I don't want to change it for something that may happen down the road.
Well, I would agree with you. Let's say the city doesn't do it.
Well, there you go. But I don't want to argue with you either.
No,
I'm just stating my point.
But my point is you have a bridge that crosses over there anyway, already. The Winooski Bridge. You're building one right next to it. You add no functional area at all.
You've made that point several times. Bart?
Don, can you tell us about the grant funding we already have for this trail?
We have two grant funding sources. Phase one, which we're in now, came from the state. ODOT has put in for several Tiger grants through the feds over the years. We work with the board, the ODOT board, they work with us, and the idea was to build that project to connect Newburgh and Dundee, which was identified as a high priority. We took it a little bit farther and went ahead and connected it to 99 out there when they did this street. That's the reason for the big long walkways and stuff. We got that funded. We paid nothing for that. This particular grant is about 2.9. ODOT is putting in about 1.8. We're to put in 800,000 to match that. If we don't do it, then the ODOT funding goes away. The second phase, the feds have got involved and said, since you're doing the first phase, let's go ahead and submit for the second phase. The second phase will be about 6 million. Will go over, allow a bigger bridge. And the cost of that will actually be less than the first phase. It'll only be 600,000 local money. So the rest of that money will come from the federal government. So if we don't do this, we lose the state, the fed money, and the project's not complete.
And it's one of our stated goals for the board to build that trail, and we have all this grant funding, so I don't think.
But several of those grants aren't even gotten.
So you're suggesting we give up the other ones so
No,
we could
I'm
not
suggesting-
achieve it?
I'm suggesting that-
You can suggest, but I can tell you that we're not interested. Or I can't speak for the whole board, but I'm not interested in stopping the trail.
I don't think we're stopping the trails. In fact, I think you're accelerating the implementation of the trails.
That might be your opinion.
Well, it's kind of like you can cross that bridge when you get to it, right? And that bridge is there,
No pun intended.
no pun intended.
All right, so we've talked about those before. Rennie School,
Just
this
got that
is
answer.
pull out of the project. No, they haven't. We're negotiating a maintenance agreement. Ms. Sander, I'm spent a long career as an editor, so I have to say this. It's Sander, not Sanders.
Sorry.
That's okay. You're certainly not the only one that makes that mistake. She is paying for the vast majority of that part herself. So, anyway.
Unless,
Unfortunately, Kellen is not with us tonight because he has a previous commitment with one of his children since the meeting got switched. So I don't want to have a long discussion about this without him being able to
oh no,
input.
it was just informative, it wasn't a case of, okay, essentially what I'm trying to do is help out Kellen get a better handle on using the data that he's got from golf now on his golf operation.
Okay,
That's it.
we appreciate that. All right. Thank you. Who's speaking about the Trails Committee?
I missed the last meeting, so
Is anyone here to speak about the Trails Committee?
I think we discussed trails pretty thoroughly earlier too.
So there are other trails too.
Yeah.
That's fine. Golf Course Advisory Committee did meet. Steve or Art want to speak?
Yeah, we can tag team if you want to. Art, you got a few things you want to say?
Yeah, I do.
So do I. So go ahead first. I'll let age before beauty. Just kidding. Just kidding.
What I'd like to do, the name is Art Gregory,
Thank you, sir.
and I'm on the advisory committee for the golf course, one of the members. And one of the things that we talked about early in our first meeting was to fence the driving range, to be able to collect the driving range golf balls and be able to recycle them from the ravine and gully area. That would be to the west of the driving range and to the south of the driving range. In Casey's review of that and what he came up with costing made it actually unfeasible. The cost has exceeded the value that would be gained. But what I want to do is I want to recognize the efforts of Casey, Scott, Brian. What they have done at their own initiative is that they've gone in and they've cleaned out all of the brush along the creek bed on the south side and on the west side. And it's cleaned it up really nice, and they're gonna put in a netting, called a silt netting, I believe, that will catch a lot of the range golf balls that would go down into the ravine. And I just want to acknowledge their efforts. I want, the board to recognize what they have done, and there will be cost savings from that that would be more commensurate with the cost of installing it. So, thank you all very much. It's appreciated.
Appreciate your comments, thank you.
yeah, thank you.
That's great.
Don, Quentin is on for the trails.
Well, good.
I'm sorry?
Quentin.
Quentin.
So,
Oh.
we should finish with the golf course advisory.
That's what I was
Okay,
looking
we'll come back to Quentin in a second.
Good job, Art. I was just joking. I meant to say elders first. So good job. So
And I do, before you start, I want to acknowledge, because I missed him, that we do have another member of the Golf Course Committee. My erstwhile cousin, Chris Harper, is in the back row. I call him that because I do have a cousin named Chris Harper, although it's not this Chris Harper. In fact, my cousin Chris Harper is a she. But anyway. Steve.
how do you follow that? Yeah. So in addition to what the notes we got here, in addition to what Art was talking about, a couple key things that came out of the last meeting regarding the facilities and the upgrade of the triple wide, the clubhouse. This is the clubhouse now. And that being that Heidi is going to come and speak at our next meeting, looking at specifically, in April, looking at the surcharge or the $5 charge that's going to go into effect July 1 as an additional item to help raise money for the permanent structure. I volunteered, if and when the day comes, to head up the fundraising and marketing efforts of the permanent structure. So all that's good. And then also the Don and Casey and Kellen met with Michael Bond, who's his son coincidentally works at the golf course when he's not playing for his college team in Indiana, Valparaiso, as the architect and coming up with some designs there. So I also want to echo Art's comments. Scott, it's the best. I've lived there now almost 8 years. It's the best condition I've seen the facilities in since Andrew was here, and he was the first course superintendent when I moved here. So props to him and his team with all the snow and everything that we've had. Just a really great job as well. And yeah, so we're moving along. with that.
Okay. Chris, you want to add anything since you're here? Okay. And just look,
Sorry, the one other quick thing I forgot to note, when we're talking about, fiscal responsibility and where we spend money and these things that Hunter brings up and these things that are important to us, there's things that happen that the board and that some of the employees that they take on regarding specifically the golf course, which is what I'm working on right at this second. And then there's things that the advisory committee is trying to work on, like the permanent building. So when I go into the clubhouse as a customer and I see someone says, "Hey Steve, guess what? They're looking to replace the carpet and the flooring in the triple wide." I'm like, really? Like, again, wow. So I don't know how much money that costs, but again, these things that go on, I don't know. When you look at the building and the leaks that go on in their BART throughout the whole triple wide, I would say the roof and the ceiling probably would take priority over the carpet and the flooring in the bathroom, but that's just a side note of my opinion. As far as if you want to look nice, until we can get a permanent structure built, but those are just little surprises that I happen to run into as a customer. So anyway, FYI.
appreciate it. Michael Vaughn, the architect, is going to come to hopefully he's going to come to the March Golf Advisory meeting. I haven't been around to ask him yet, but we'll get that done. And just so the board knows, Todd Saunders resigned from the committee, and we will look to replace him from the folks that originally applied. So, yes, Director McMaster.
On the roof, Casey, is that a situation where we're looking to upgrade that roof or no?
Well, yeah, that's gonna get
Versus just
resolved.
patching?
It's kind of leaked. It's a membrane roof.
Right.
And it's got some gutters on top that are kind of in through the roof part.
I remember that building.
If they get filled up with leaves or anything like that, dirt from whatever, they tend to overflow and go down and over the membrane and get sucked up and go down the wall. It's been like that since day one. It's a matter of going up there and making sure everything gets cleaned off, and you never know when things are gonna end up there. The leaves this year, 3 months of leaves, that's a lot. And so those things happen, and we'll have to address that, yeah.
So it's not like a fix overall, it's more of a maintenance issue.
It is, and it's, the floor is important too, in that respect that somebody's gonna trip on all those seams and the carpets, the fibers that are all coming up, and you can't say that that's not important as well. They're gonna put tiles down, so that it is more durable.
Is that the original carpet and
That is the original.
from
carpet.
He's saying
No,
no.
it's not?
No?
I know it's not.
But it's well used.
It's well
And that's a
used.
good
It's
thing,
well
we got a lot of
used.
golfers going through there.
original was shag, wasn't it?
40,
It wasn't Chaz.
you gotta figure about 45, 50,000 people walk through in an average year. It's been there for a long time.
If you go in Kellen's office, you'll notice it's a little bit different. When we replace the carpet out front, the carpets in the offices didn't need to replace. So that's the reason I know that they were replaced. So that was the original carpets.
So we replaced the other carpets once.
That's
And
correct.
the countertop, where the old countertop
I remember
moved
that.
to is
Correct.
still, you can still see where the original was.
Right, it was kind of a blue,
Okay.
but anyway.
All right. Okay, let's talk about, Clinton, first. It's that orange, it's just, I try to just, not see it.
Thank you, Chair and Directors. Again, Quentin Comis, proud Ben Beeve, here as the Chair of the Chehalem Heritage Trails Advisory Committee. I just want to provide an update on what's happened in the last month. I did receive some correspondence from Brian Bowman and Dana Kemp, who are in the audience, and I believe Dana spoke earlier. We did discuss approving and I think it's in your packet, maintaining all existing trail names, including the ones that aren't in our advisory committee's mapping. So I know there's historical maps at the park that have more names that we don't have access to, but we have maintained that we will keep all of those names. And we haven't voted on it, but the discussion is that any new names any new trails would be named in a collaborative process that has distinct significance to Native American or other history and the cultural significance of that park. And we welcome any collaboration with the foundation and any other stakeholders. We did have continued discussion on community engagement and maintenance, including the equestrian group's interest in doing a trail maintenance work party up there, which I believe they are working with Brian and perhaps Casey on that one. We also have set a goal of doing our own committee supported maintenance party up at Bob and Crystal Riley Park on June 3rd, which is National Trails Day. That work will be ongoing here in the process, working with CPRD staff to make sure that is done appropriately. I want to recognize not only our committee, but I really appreciate the public participation at those meetings. We have a great representation, pretty regular, from I think some of the folks that are at your meeting tonight, the equestrian group, and from the cyclists. And I do want to recognize that public administration is difficult. You come here every day and there's something new. And as a natural resources student, also studying business and education, I know that these are complex issues, and that's why I, as the chair of this committee, and I think my members support it, is we want to work in a collaborative way with all of our stakeholders, the board, the public, and the experts that can help us bring the best outcomes in the most fiscally responsible way. So I just want to make that clear and recognize the incredible efforts. And I know Richard's there. He's likely to help us in the future, but I want to recognize he was at the meeting last night and ran tech for us. And then also Kat, Casey, and Brian, and of course, Bart and Jim, your representation at our meetings as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I do welcome any board directives moving forward for our committee. We're going to continue working on engagement and maintenance as our main priorities here in the near future.
And we volunteered a couple of more stakeholders for your trail naming committee before you got with us tonight, so. Yes, Director McMaster.
So, we're coming up with a master plan on this, and the RFQ went out and was returned. And I know that Dana Kemp is here, who's very knowledgeable on the property as far as the history, and there was a master plan done a while ago. And I'd like to see that included in the folks that are doing the RFQ, so they have an understanding of it, and also the trail committee, so they have an understanding of it, so that may help to answer questions that don't have to be asked twice. So if you can get that information,
Trying to find it.
that'd be great. Thank you.
Wondered if maybe Don had a binder in his office from long ago.
It's possible.
You have to ask her.
Okay,
I'll have to
because
look.
I did a brief kind of through the building, there's a lot, I mean, in that one room, there's a lot of stuff in there, but I'm just on a quick pass, I didn't see it. But I know we did give you some things, and I thought maybe it might
Cat
be
may
in the
know
box.
where they're at, Sue, who knows?
So,
There's somewhere.
anyway, I'll follow up with you, Don. But yes,
It's all right.
I'll find it.
Just thought that might help down the line.
Thank you, Quentin.
Okay, anything else? Friends Park. Casey or Dawn or whoever?
Pat Darby has requested, and I think he's going to visit the city with a pre-app for the conversion of a piece of property at Friends Park. Because that park was built with a grant, I have asked the Oregon Parks whether that was an acceptable agreement, and they said yes, because we're going to get another 5 acres of property out of it. So we're going ahead with the conversion. Basically, all the costs for that are on Mr. Darby, and he's trying to get a feel for how much money it might cost him to develop that lot, and it's to the north. It's the northwest corner of the park by the parking lot, or the staging area, the gravel area, off of Kennedy. There's water there, he'll have to tie in the sewer, there'll be some sidewalk extensions. It really won't affect the park, and we'll gain a lot of property from that. And it's kind of mostly drainway, but there are some opportunities to connect to the Hoover Park through that drainway eventually. So I think that's thank you, Richard. Can you go over a little bit more?
Yeah, so this is the proposed donation land, and then his requested land is here.
So there's a pre-app meeting on at 1 o'clock on the 15th of March, and they've asked me to be in attendance, so I will report back to you.
Casey, really quick, when this first came up, I don't know, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I forgot how long, it's been there for a while. Didn't they stake out towards the canyon a little more? Wasn't that where it was staked out? Was it
Well,
in
this
that
is what we're
spot?
gonna find out from the city. I don't think it really matters.
Well, it does a little bit from a parking standpoint, but I'm just looking at it and saying, because that's where I thought it was. And when I would walk down there to look at it, that's where the stakes were. So I'm just, didn't know if it changed.
Well, they're gonna require a certain size lot. He's just giving them a general idea of where it's going, and they're gonna determine what they do with that.
But you know where I'm talking
Yeah.
about and where the stakes were,
Yeah.
because I think, Don, you alluded to that with me, okay?
I'm kinda looking at it as a standpoint, if you give him that part of the park, he'll maintain that whole section. And we won't have to maintain it.
Bart?
Is the land donation at 5 acres, is that in the city limits?
It's not, it's in the UGB, I believe so, yeah.
Okay, maybe you could confirm that for us for the next meeting.
I will.
Anything else on that?
That's kinda where it sits right now.
Okay, how to launch?
Nothing to report.
Okay.
I know Bart can speed up a report on that, but I will get there as soon as our budget's done.
Thank you.
Superintendent's report?
I think Casey covered pretty much everything, so I really don't have anything other than to remind the board that if you see any of the county commissioners, to encourage them to address that issue so that we can move ahead with our projects as well. I think I understand the idea of protecting farmland and forest land. And if the board remembers, we made a decision many years ago that we would not condemn, which we have a right to condemn property. We would not condemn property. We would work with residents. We would collaborate. We would not go down that road. And I don't think, I hope the board would never change its mind on that. It's just not a good road to go down. An example, the land donation, I can show you an old map of that area going up. That land donation had a red dot. That meant that no park or trail could go on that. It was red dotted. Over the years, things change. And now it's a green dot. We had green, yellow, and red. That was a red dot. So times have a way of changing, and we just move ahead to ignore the idea of trails for the community. First of all, health-wise, it's just healthy to get people outdoor walking. The health of individuals. You go around this community, I walk it every day. I walk all the way across town almost every single night, and I go all the way to the other side of Newburgh. And I see hundreds of people out walking all the time. I go down to the track, I run the track, and I do that as well. We need to encourage citizens to get out and do that. And connecting, we're doing that within the city limits, but how do we connect city limits to the next city limits, and how is those connections made? And part of the responsibility, we're a park and rec district. We want to work with the cities, the counties, in developing that effort, use our resources, use our parks, use our situation to make it better for the community. Because we all work for the community, not just special groups. Not just special groups, but the entire community. And I would say I've been really pleased with the board over the years. I can honestly say you've made good decisions, worked very hard, and I've been very pleased with that. Not all those decisions were easy. An example, SDCs. You know what I recommended, but at the same time, you chose not to take that recommendation. I respect that. You know, hindsight is one thing, but you came forward, you looked at that, and I think you were right. The second thing, Lisa, Don, Bart, all of you worked on our personnel and upping those things. I'm a little scared sometimes to spend money, but you were correct.
That's an understatement.
You were correct in what you did. We benefited, and I think the results will show. And I commend you for doing that and providing the leadership that was needed. And but that's all that I have.
So I just want to add, I'm going to take a moment's prerogative as the current chairman of this board. It's very frustrating to me if anybody who's watching or anybody who's here has a better line of communication with the commissioners than we do. And I say this as one board member who has publicly said from the get-go that I am not in favor of this district getting involved in the Amherst Trail. We got our own list of priorities we can't ever seem to get to, and that's not going to change. I'm not interested, but it seems to me that the commissioners want to make sure that trail doesn't get built, and so they've passed a rule, which is their right to make sure it doesn't happen, but they've made it overbroad that it's impacting every other trail in the county. Now it's a question of whether or not we can build a new trail on our property up on top of the hill up here. And that just simply doesn't make sense. And so I know back when Bill Sizemore was, around, we talked a lot in all circles about things that had unintended consequences. He'd have this idea, maybe on the surface, half of it wasn't bad, it would have unintended consequences. This is what's happened, from my perspective, with this thing that the commissioners have passed. It's an unintended consequence. They were aimed at the Ellis Trail. That's their prerogative, but it shouldn't impact a park and recreation district on the other side of the county that wants to build a trail on its own property. So, that's my soapbox.
To add
Director McMaster.
to add what you're saying is my concern is that down here on 219 across from Walgreens, they put that signal in because
We
they
used to have an arc circle.
right, but they had a couple deaths there, and they finally figured out we got to put the signal in to try to keep these deaths from happening. On the trail that goes along the bypass within the ODOT easement, that's getting kids and bikes and everything off of 99W. What's going to happen? And we're giving them a safe way to travel, to walk, to bike, to go. What's going to happen is we're going to have a death on 99. Some kid's going to get hit. And so then people are going to say, oh, well, why didn't we do this? And that's the problem I think that people aren't seeing is that this is a safe route to schools. It's a safe way for the two communities to join each other without taking some dangerous roads to get there. And without impacting agricultural land, without impacting anybody else. So I just feel strongly that you're looking at it in different counties, whether it be Lane County, whether it be Deschutes County, whether it be so many counties throughout the state are putting these trails in for recreational value, for economic value, for tourism, and for number one in my book is safety.
Right.
And that's where I'm coming from. So just so people know where I'm at. And I don't disagree with Don Yamhilla's trail. I think that having a trail like that is great, but it's not in our district. It's not in our purview. So.
Anybody else want a soapbox? Alright.
Sometimes.
I started with this one. All right, staff reports. Heard plenty from Dawn. Ms. Peterson, Forest Grove Viking alum.
Oh man, I feel like I'm doing this tonight. It's like trying to listen and trying to do this at the same time.
Yeah, take notes of what you say.
Yeah.
Yes.
One of the things I wanted to mention is that, as you know, Tara retired. And so I sent you all an invite this evening. We're going to have a get-together, a retirement lunch, and we'd love for you guys to attend on March 9th at 1 p.m. at Jay's Restaurant. So if you have any questions on that, I put my number on that e-bite, but we'd love to have you. I think there'll be about 20 people in attendance, staff included, and Mark Martin and Lynn Patrick have invited them as well. So it should be really, really fun.
The old people.
The old group. We've hired Wendy Roberts as the aquatic coordinator, replacing Tara, and she's fantastic. And then a gal by the name of Krista Miller is the new aquatic specialist, and she has a lot of aquatic experience, primarily with the swim teams, but she's and also swim lessons, and so she's going to be wonderful. And then Tara will be back as well to help and to assist us as we move forward. So she's not excited about getting in the water anymore, but
I was pretty excited to see the revenue generation, especially membership. That was just blew me away.
Yeah.
I just go, wow, that's just.
I think it's 26,000 maybe. We're over. So
yeah, I mean it's more than that. It was pretty remarkable.
Yeah, so we're excited about that. You know, those guys have they're really working very hard on figuring out new ways and new programs. And we had a Saturday sampler where we had a lot of the community. We invited the community to sample some of our classes. And that was a great success. We had 40 to 50 people per class. So many people that we had to move them out into the gymnasium to work out. So that's great. And if you stop by, the parking lot is full all the time. Basketball's in full swing. We've got pickleballers in there. We have table tennis. Lessons are going crazy. We've got swim teams in there. The comp pool is constantly busy. And so we're excited, and good partnership with maintenance over there, working hard to provide everyone a great opportunity to do whatever it is they like. And that's the piece of it, is you have to offer a lot of different things, because everybody, not everybody just likes to swim.
Yeah.
Not everybody just likes to lift weights. So they're doing really well. It's one of those things, they kind of have new eyes on it, and COVID has actually helped us there, because we did have to find a new way to generate revenue. So they're working really hard. I'm really proud of them. Let's see. What else? Rentals are up too. We had a ton of rentals this past month, so that's great. I also wanted to acknowledge, in fact, Steve Paulson had mentioned to me, Becky Dre, who works at the registration desk. She's worked really hard to implement some new things going on at the front desk. One of the things, we went to auto pay for monthly memberships, and that's helped. And she's really worked hard with the insurance companies who offer people a benefit and a membership at a reduced cost. And Becky's been instrumental. That's a very, it's a neat thing, actually. And so Becky's working hard at communicating with those insurance companies to make sure that that's a win for our patrons and also for us as well. Let's see, with sports, basketball's over. We had 707 kids participating in basketball this year, and that's crazy, but a good crazy.
Is that the highest we've been?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great.
I think every time I talk about basketball too, I get so excited because we offer so many neat things with basketball, and that is we offer kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade, so the little kids, and then we have something for the 3rd through 8th grade recreational kids, and then we offer travel teams for those families and kids who want more. And I really like to see all of our programming kind of structured that way. So we're moving in the right direction with that too. We've started spring sports, so we should have 650 kids playing soccer this year. We'll have lacrosse and track. And then, of course, the baseball program, they use our fields out at Jaquith and at Dundee. So we're working with them quite a bit. Let's see, in our recreation department, we had the father-daughter dance. And it was a lot of fun. We also set a record there. We had 265 participants, and that was really fun and neat. Let's see. And then our senior center has been very, very busy. I think I mentioned last time we hired a new gal, and she's working hard on programming. And we are now having our in-person lunch again, and our senior meals. I think it was in the packet. We're also offering 80 home-delivered meals through Meals on Wheels, and that's fantastic.
That's awesome.
But we've seen a lot of participation there, like the pools, and we're offering a lot of classes, and so we're excited about that. And then care's going great. We have a lot of kids. The weather has been kind of tough to deal with that. And then we have our community school, and they are back in the school. So community school are activities and classes that are offered to kids after school. They're not really care-based, so they don't stay for a length of time, and their parent picks them up later. It's usually like an hour class after school at the elementaries. We offer different types of things like science or dodgeball, just things that we think kids would be interested in at the elementary schools. And that started up. We hadn't done that. COVID, it kind of put a kibosh on that, but now that's up. So I think that's good. We're getting ready for the Camellia Run, right? Right.
Bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excited about that. I think that's it. I'm not writing any of that down.
Did you get all that?
No, I'm not writing any of it down. None of it. I think that's it for me.
Brian?
Parks, well, as Julie mentioned, with the increase on programming and activity at the facilities, puts pressure on those buildings, and takes staff to take care of those and keep them all running, and so everybody's been busy there. Funny example in the month of February is one day we're striping a lacrosse field, and literally 24 hours later, we're shoveling snow and throwing ice around it. So we've had it all this year so far, but yeah, everything's going fine. So we're staying busy, that's for sure.
Scott?
We've been continuing to open up the sight lines and beating back the brush around the rough areas, and trying to restore the natural beauty of the course, and getting ready for spring, that's for sure.
If you need
Hopefully
any
it's coming on its
recommendations
way.
on tree branches to trim, I've got a list for you.
Yeah, your fan tree, yes.
Just hand them the chainsaw.
Casey, we've heard enough from you. Heidi, welcome. We don't get to see you in person a lot.
I continue to pay things. That's it.
I'm putting that in there.
Hopefully we collect some money every now and again.
Yes.
Don Levy misses signing checks, by the way, he told me that.
Yeah.
Okay.
He wanted to sign the thousands of checks again.
Okay. I'll call you every Thursday.
When checks
It's a
need to
weak
get signed,
moment,
it generally means it comes in and does. So. Richard, what is Lock in the Bar? No, Lock in the Bar.
It's a boiler company. Yeah. Yeah, just been working on our server room here. It's due to an update, so we've been working on it, running fiber from the old server room to the new one, and upgrading the network. A lot of old wiring from the 80s that doesn't support gigabit, so we're stripping it all out and replacing. So.
That sounds overdue.
I got a question for you, Richard, real quick. The Rotary clubs have their little room back there. Did they talk to you?
They have not yet.
Well, they lost their internet connection, and for those that don't know, that they use that little room there, and they have an internet connection, and they make these chairs for third world countries and send them out, and it's a pretty good little thing. So anyway, they didn't know what happened to their internet, and I just thought I'd bring that up.
I have an email out to Paula Radish, I believe, to talk to them about their computer. I was actually unaware that there was a computer back there. And so we need to
Nobody's been in there for a
put
few
them
years.
in their own network, not on our network. So
Yeah, I just talked to them, but they just wanted to know what's up. So
no problem. If you actually have a phone number for Paula, I'd rather just call her if could be.
I'm sure we can get that too. All right, anybody have any questions or comments about citizens' correspondence? Or miscellaneous info?
Yeah, that one person that writes this now says they're gonna go to the graphic, so I think they have to submit their name finally if they're gonna publish in the graphic.
they've been going to the graphic for a long time.
No,
They just never
never publish because they don't have.
Because they don't have a name.
Woodward and Bernstein-ish Newburgh graphic, yes.
Pretty sure the name will
Sure
just
they'll
be
get
Good
right on
Citizen.
I'm sure they'll get right on that. All right. Right before we adjourn, I will let the audience know that we will take a very short break, and then we will be convening a very short meeting of the Chehalis Park and Recreation District Foundation. This board is also the board for the foundation. We meet once every year or two because we have to, but we don't really have any business to do. You're welcome to stay. If you think this was boring, it'll be even more boring. But that's what's going to happen next. With that, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Director Rogers moved to adjourn. A motion to adjourn does not need a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned.